Toyota is the largest car manufacturer on the planet. They sell over 10 million vehicles every single year. More than Ford, more than Volkswagen, more than anyone. But the story of how Toyota began is nothing like what you'd expect. Because Toyota didn't start as a car company, it started as a loom factory, a place that made weaving machines for the textile industry. And the man behind it all wasn't a car engineer. He wasn't a businessman in a suit. He was the son of a poor carpenter from a tiny Japanese village who spent his youth tinkering with wooden machines in a barn, while his neighbours called him crazy. This is the extraordinary story of how a carpenter's son and his dream of building looms accidentally created the biggest car company in human history. The year is 1867, in the small village of Yamaguchi in Shizuoka Prefecture, Japan. A boy named Sakichi Toyoda is born. His father, Ikichi, is a carpenter, a skilled one, but the family is poor. They live in a farming village where women weave cotton on slow, painful hand looms to earn extra money for the household. The work is backbreaking, inefficient, and Sakichi watches his own mother struggle with it every single day. That image would haunt him for life. Sakichi grows up helping his father with carpentry. He graduates from elementary school. But he doesn't want to build houses. Something else is pulling at him. He becomes an obsessive reader. He gets his hands on a translated book called Self-Help by Samuel Smiles, a book about the world's greatest inventors. Inside, he reads about the Jacquard loom from France, about machines that could automate work, about ordinary people who changed the world through invention. That book set his mind on fire. At 18, Sakichi told his father he didn't want to be a carpenter anymore. He wanted to invent a better loom. His father thought he was out of his mind. His neighbours agreed, but Sakichi didn't care. He locked himself in a barn, and for years he built looms, destroyed them, rebuilt them, destroyed them again. People in the village whispered that the carpenter's son had lost his mind. But in 1890, at the age of 23, Sakichi finally cracked it. He invented the Toyota wooden hand loom, a loom that could be operated with just one hand instead of two. It improved weaving quality by 40%. He got his first patent in 1891. He was 24 years old. But that was just the beginning. Sakichi didn't stop there. He kept inventing. He opened a small factory in Tokyo. It failed. He went broke. He moved back to his village. His first marriage collapsed. His life was falling apart. But the man would not quit. By 1896, he had invented Japan's very first power loom, a machine built from steel and wood that could weave fabric automatically. Then, year after year, he kept improving it. Automatic thread replacement, automatic stop when a thread broke, each invention more brilliant than the last. That final idea, the machine stopping itself when it detects a problem, became a principle called Jidoka, and it would later become the foundation of the entire Toyota production system. The philosophy that made Toyota the most efficient car manufacturer on earth came from a loom. By the 1920s, Sakichi Toyoda was being called the king of Japanese inventors. In 1924, he and his son Kiichiro perfected the crown jewel, the Type G automatic loom. It was so advanced that Platt Brothers, the world's biggest loom company in England, bought the patent rights for 1 million yen. 1 million yen. From a carpenter's son who once worked in a barn, but here's where the story takes its greatest turn. Sakichi was getting old, and he could see the future. He looked at his son Kiichiro and told him something that would change history. The coming world needs cars. You must work on their development. Then he did something extraordinary. He gave Kiichiro the money from the Platt Brothers patent sale, the equivalent of £100,000, and told him to use it as seed money to build an automobile company. On October 30th, 1930, Sakichi Toyoda died. He was 63 years old. He never saw a single Toyota car, but his son Kiichiro had heard the message loud and clear. Kiichiro Toyoda was born in 1894. He had grown up surrounded by machines. Not cars, but looms, factories, spinning wheels. He studied mechanical engineering at the University of Tokyo. He was quiet, thoughtful, and deeply influenced by his father's obsession with perfection. After graduating, Kiichiro traveled to England and America. He visited Ford factories, he studied their assembly lines, he examined Chevrolet engines, and he came back to Japan with a burning conviction. Japan must build its own cars, not import them, build them. But there was a massive problem. Japan had no car industry, no skilled automotive engineers, no supply chain. Nothing. Everyone told Kiichiro it was impossible. His own company's board of directors thought the idea was reckless. They were a loom company. Why risk everything on cars? But Kiichiro didn't listen. In 1933, using his father's loom patent money, he set up an automobile department inside Toyota Automatic Loom Works. He bought a Chevrolet, took it apart, studied every single component, and then tried to build his own version from scratch. It took 6 months just to build one engine. 6 months, and when it finally ran, it barely worked. But Kiichiro kept going. In May 1935, the first Toyota prototype, the Model A1, rolled out of the factory. The engine was based on a Chevrolet design, the chassis was copied from Ford. The body was inspired by a Chrysler Airflow. It was imperfect, clumsy, a Frankenstein of borrowed ideas. But Kiichiro drove one of these prototypes to his father's grave, as a tribute, as a promise fulfilled. In 1937, Toyota Motor Corporation was officially born. The name was changed from Toyoda to Toyoda because it took 8 brushstrokes to write in Japanese, considered a lucky number. A loom company had become a car company. But the timing could not have been worse. World War II swallowed Japan. Toyota was forced to stop making passenger cars and produce military trucks instead. Materials were scarce. Workers were drafted, the factory barely survived American bombing raids and a devastating earthquake. When the war ended, Japan was in ruins, and Toyota was on the edge of collapse. By 1949, the company couldn't pay its workers. A brutal labor strike followed. And in 1950, Kiichiro Toyoda, the man who had dreamed of building cars since his father told him to, was forced to resign as president of his own company. He took personal responsibility for the crisis. He walked away. He planned to return. He told close friends. He wasn't finished, but on March 27, 1952, Kiichiro Toyoda died suddenly of a brain hemorrhage. He was 57 years old. He never saw the Toyota Crown, the first true Japanese passenger car, which debuted just 3 years later in 1955. He never saw the Corolla become the best-selling car in history. He never saw Toyota overtake General Motors to become the #1 car company on the planet. The man who built Toyota died thinking he had failed. If this story moved you, hit subscribe right now. We tell the untold stories behind the world's biggest brands every single week. Turn on notifications so you never miss one. Today, Toyota is worth over $250 billion. It employs over 375,000 people. It has sold more cars than any company in the history of the automobile. And it all started because a poor carpenter's son watched his mother struggle at a hand loom and decided to build her a better one. Sakichi Toyoda never built a car, but he built the dream, he built the money, he built the philosophy, and he passed all of it to his son. Kiichiro Toyoda never lived to see his dream come true, but the company he built from looms and borrowed engine designs went on to change the world. 2 generations, 1 dream, and a barn where it all began. Sometimes the biggest empires don't start with grand plans, they start with a mother, a loom, and a son who refused to look away.